What's up, guys? Let's talk about uh, tools for EDC. And this time, we're talking about pocket knives versus multi-tools, and which ones are better for what situation. So we're going to kind of break down the question in a few different ways. So we'll talk about the size, weight, price, utility, overall usability, and where they're going to tend to be better for one job or the other. So first, in terms of size and weight, the actual real estate that it takes up in your pockets are really not that different. Multi-tools are generally going to be a little bit wider, which you will notice. So here's a Voyager, which is by no means a small knife, next to the Leatherman Wave, and it is a little bit thicker. That's usually going to be the case, especially if you're used to carrying a smaller knife. Like, for example, the Code 4. Code 4 is a very thin knife compared to the Leatherman Arc here. Much, much thicker. The multi-tools are also going to be quite a bit heavier in the pocket. So, but that's another thing that you will notice and may or may not bother you, just depending on the person. In terms of price, multi-tools are generally going to be much more expensive than pocket knives. The blade steels are not usually going to be as good. You'll have like exceptions like with the Arc, which has a MagnaCut blade, but you are very much paying for that because you're looking at like 220 for one of these Leatherman Arcs versus an S35V and the Code 4. You can find these knives pretty often for under 80 bucks on Amazon and stuff. So you will pay for the multi-tools if you want to go that route. Nothing wrong with that, but it's going to depend on the individual and what you uh, kind of your philosophy of it. In terms of overall usability, um, obviously your pocket knives are made for cutting. That's what they do really well. Usually the blade steels are serve that purpose. So like AUS 10, S35VN, D2 steel, etc. Uh, as well as like the actual design of the blades. It's just going to lend itself a lot better to cutting tasks. So if you are camping or using it as a work knife, you're going to find like a pocket knife to just be better versus something like Code 4. It's a lot more blades. This will do more for you than this tiny little one. But that may not be a big deal. You can still get a lot done with the smaller blades on the multi-tool. Uh, but in terms of grip and the blade design, you will find it to be a little bit less efficient in that particular regard. Uh, but if you don't necessarily spend a lot of time cutting, you're not worried about being able to whittle or um, process wood or game and stuff. The multi-tools, uh, the fact that the blades are a little bit inferior is not going to be a deal breaker by any means. Plus, what you don't get in the pocket knives is you get all of the tool sets for your multi-tool. The pliers are the big thing with the multi-tools. Really comes in handy and that's something that you're not going to get with those things. All of them will do this. Every multi-tool kind of comes with its own tool set. So you got to kind of go through them, decide what you want. Skeletal is one of the most slim as far as tools go. It's much lighter. I think these things come in a little over 5 ounces, but like this one's almost 9 for the Arc. But you get a lot more tools in the Arc than you do in the Skeletal. The Skeletal, you're pretty much just getting your Phillips head and little carabiner along with your pliers. In the Leatherman Arc, you're getting a file, a saw, scissors, obviously the Magna Cut blade. And one thing I think is really nice about the Arc is you get the tools on the outside. So can opener, Phillips head like you do in the other one, bottle opener, glasses, screwdriver if you think that's useful. And I think this was a big upgrade for the Arc from the Wave is the introduction of the awl. I think that was probably the one thing that the Wave really kind of suffered from was in lacking an awl. But same deal with the Leatherman. You get basically the same toolbox in the Wave that you get with the Arc, and this one is about half the price of the Arc. I've been running these ones for years, and this one's phenomenal. Probably, I think the Wave is probably still their most popular multi-tool, would be my guess. It's pretty fairly priced. The prices are going up, but even so, for what you're getting and the warranty involved, these things are these are awesome multi-tools. If you're trying to get into multi-tools, I do recommend the Wave or a Wave clone is probably the way to go for most people, and they're gonna get the most enjoyment out of it. Yeah, so those are the big differences that you're gonna get. The last thing you can kind of consider as far as EDC, this may or may not be something that you consider useful, but is in the tool's ability to be used as a self-defense tool if you wanted to push it into that role or in a tactical role. Obviously, that's all going to come down to that grip. Pretty much across the board, obviously, pocket knives are going to be much easier to get a hold of. They're easier to open, and then when they're in your hand, they're a lot more solid. Grabbing and using the multi-tools is really not very comfortable, especially the Arc. Although I like that they added the tools are accessible from the outside, it does kind of make it so that when you're using the knife, it's just not comfortable. There's a lot of hot spots in there, which I mean you could still thrust a multi-tool into a tactical role if you wanted to. I've heard stories of guys using them uh, in Iraq, but for that type of role, but it's definitely not ideal if you have to try to thrust it into that specific usage. So, just depending on what you want out of it, most people are naturally just going to gravitate towards the pocket knife. It's very simple. You don't have to worry about much. You just have a blade in your pocket and you can kind of forget about it. It's lightweight and they come with better pocket clips typically. Pocket clips on multi-tools are usually kind of junk. On Leathermans, you usually need to pinch these to get a little bit more tension on them, and then they'll hold on better. But I've had, and unless I do that, most of the multi tools that I've had have tried to slip out of my pocket or have slipped out of my pocket. So if you're going to do multi tools, make sure that the tension on the pocket clip is tight enough. I can show y'all how to do what I'm talking about with pinching these things to make them tighter if y'all want, but like the Arc, this one comes with a pretty solid pocket clip. You don't need to worry about it too much. You can tell that I bent this one slightly to get a little more tension on it, but I haven't had any problems with this trying to slip out of my pocket. And then obviously the aftermarket ones you get for the Wave are also, they come pretty loose, but they're easy to tighten. You can tell that one bites pretty good. So that's kind of a last second thought is considering the pocket clips. Pocket clips on your knives are usually going to be a little better if that is something you're concerned about. But that's kind of my spiel. Leave me your thoughts on which ones you prefer, pocket knives or multi tools. I think for general everyday use, I would go pocket knives. If I know that I'm going to need screwdrivers or pliers or something like along those lines, then I'll go ahead and choose one of these. But for typical use, I'd say pocket knives are a lot more. They're generally going to be more. You're much more likely to actually carry it and make use of it. So let me know what you guys think. in the comments. I'll respond if I have something to say about it. Otherwise, I'll leave you a like or whatever. See you guys.